Hello, hello everyone. This is me, your astrology journalist, because I break the news before even the news happen. Yes, I do. I use astrology to determine what's happened in the past, what is happening right now, what is going to happen tomorrow, what is going to happen in 2 weeks time, 10 years time, 20 years time. I do it with precision using astrology. Yes, I do. And today we are doing something different. I'm talking about a topic that a lot of people already know in this field, in our field of astrology, but some people who are totally new in astrology may not even know what is it that I'm talking about. I am talking about Geosynastry. What is Geosynastry? Let's talk about it. It is basically a study of how we relate to a physical location. Now, a lot of people have talked about it under the astrocartography, which is not, because the astrocartography looks at how you relate in terms of your chart to a physical location, but using a carte map. A carte is coming from French carte. It's a map, it's paper. But in Geosynastry, I don't do that. I only rely on your chart and the chart of the location where you want to go. Or if you have other options, I look at them as well. And this way, I can give you precise details of what is going to happen in your life when you get there, what time, what year, what month. But then in Geosynastry, I'm telling you more details. Who is going to be your supporter? Who is going to be your weakness? All of these things. These are the details that you cannot get in astrocartography. I had to edit that out because the word cartography. Right, we do know that the study of cartography itself, it is how physical bodies relate to physical places. But then because we in our field, we look at astrology, so this is why there is an astrocartography, which is based on the charts and the alignment in your charts based on compared to the location. So they rely on the lines and which line is good on the map for you, which in most cases it's mostly in the Western world. And those who are in the Vedic world, they do suffer a bit because there's hardly even a software that does this from the Vedic point of view. Manually, I can do it by shifting the 23-degree difference, of course, but it is not what's happening. Because I also look at progression. You guys, know by now that my work is legit. I can predict anything and it happens exactly as I predicted. It is the same. I've been doing the same thing for relocations as well, for people, for my clients as well, because what I had discovered in terms of the cartography, number one, is popular in the Western. So if you don't have a Western ideology in terms of astrology, you become limited, because even with the softwares, there's I haven't seen a software that is dedicated to Vedic in terms of cartography. But then what I used to do is to calculate manually, that is, subtract the 23 degrees and all of that and shift everything. But even with that, it cannot be always accurate, because with these softwares, they are placed on placidus. They are built on placidus. So when you want to look at a chart that is focused on the whole sign to determine, what your experience is, what will happen to you, it becomes quite difficult. So this is why I had started to really zone in on the Geosynastry, and it's worked out perfectly for a lot of people because it gives more details, it gives more juice, it gives all the experiences that will happen to you in detail. It is not just a feel-good report. Okay, go to Paris, you're going to be popular. No, I tell you when you will be popular, how you will be popular, which periods will be your peak, and what challenges you will have, and so on and so forth. Because we must remember, when we are dealing with life, there are a whole lot of things that come our way, and it is always useful to have an expert that warns you of these things. Because if you're gonna move out of your country, out of your whole life, and move into another place, you need to be aware of what to expect. Would you have administration problems? Yeah, because then I have to look at your sun. Yes, your line in terms of the cartography can be good in terms of the sign, right? You're going to be popular, the government is going to be for you, but then is there mass aspect? Is there, another challenge to here? So you need to read all of that together. So this is what I offer in Geosynastry, and it is wonderful and it works perfectly. It is not something that a lot of people talk about. Yes, people have known about Geosynastry for many years, ages, right? Even before I started Synastry, but they were categorizing it under the cartography as well, astrocartography, right? To be specific to our astrology field, they were categorizing it under that section, which is not, because it does not involve the map to for you to look at. It's just the charts that are involved. So do check out my website for the options and what is available for you for your own relocation. Now let's look at this chart that I picked up to show you how it works and how it can benefit you in your life. Okay, so now let's get into this chart reading, right? The Geosynastry itself. Now remember, everything is alleged because I'm also going to be reading his chart briefly. I'm not going to focus on the progression or transit. I'm not going to focus on what is actually happening in his life. I'm just going to do the mid profiling, right? The astral profiling that anybody can do. So now looking at his chart, and this is the chart of America on the side, because I have the ascendant of the America, but I don't have his ascendant, which is why I chose him, because one, his chart doesn't have a birth time, which makes it difficult for other people but interesting to learn from. And I chose him as well because he's got the nationality differences between himself and the country, because some people, we could just use an American moving from New York to Texas or stuff like that, which would be easier. But I wanted this example to be complicated, to show that even with the complication, I am able to show you what to expect and what would be happening to you when you get to that country or to that location, and what would be the challenges and all of these things, right? So this is just a prime example of a typical chart that I can get. Let's say there's no birth time. The client says, I don't have a birth time, which has happened several times before. What's going to happen to me? When can I move? All of these things, right? Of course, with those parts of getting into the detail, I would do the progression. I usually do the progression, the transits, and just getting deeper into the astrology. We are going to look at the 10th house. We're going to use the 10th house of America, because for Tom Hardy, we are looking at his career, because that's where we're really going to see the differences that he, that have happened in his life, what has happened, and how being in America has impacted his life. So we're just going to zone in on there, and then I'll just briefly talk about his love life, but okay. So he's got in Leo his Sun, Mercury, and Saturn, and the 10th house of America is Leo. So definitely that becomes critical and important detail for him. Why? Because he's an actor, he's a celebrity, he's in the public eye. You do need a Leo energy, for such creativity and for the spotlight, right? So from the get-go, his Sun, being the lord of the spotlight, going into the 10th house of where he gets the maximum shine in terms of career and public image. It's perfect match. Looking at his Mercury, you do need business. He is in a business show, in a business industry, and of course Mercury also works well in Leo, because Mercury is adored or adores being around the Sun. And of course, adding Saturn there, he's got what I call the triple magic for being very great in life. And of course, he's reached the one of the heights that he's ever maybe desired in his life, and obviously more is yet to come. Because when I looked at his progression, which I'm not going to do here, I don't want to do it on this example. When it comes to his chart, there are still a lot of things that he's going to experience, but then for this part, we're looking at Sun, Mercury, Saturn all together in Leo in the 10th house, overlaying the 10th house of America. He's receiving the stage, he's receiving the authority, he's receiving the platform that he needs to shine. And of course, Saturn originally owns the 10th house of the charts, as we all know. So, and Saturn here having a lower degree is actually ready to work, is pushed to work, which makes him a bit of a workaholic. So definitely from that placement, I can see that he's a workaholic. He likes to also have his work or his profession be what he's known about. He's controlling when it comes to his image, because when you have Saturn and Sun together, you are going to have controlling tendencies towards your work, towards what you appreciate, what you viewed, how you are viewed in the public, because both planets are about the public status. And from this I can tell that he likes to control even his communication, or communication that is sent out about him. But now, because his planets are overlaying in the 10th house of America, getting conjunct with Lilith, there has been a whole lot of tainting that he had to experience in terms of his public image, as well as in terms of his job. So it is highly possible that at some point, maybe at the earlier of his career, he had to do some dirty work, that he wouldn't normally would have wanted to do in order to excel or to get better jobs, because of that Lilith there. What this Lilith is telling us is that there is some shadow work, as I said, background work, and some of the work that, or some of the activities that he would have had to do are things that he wouldn't want anybody to ever talk about. And it is also showing that with the Lilith particularly in the later degrees of Leo. It's showing definitely that he had to you know how I could put it is like scrub the floor, right? Not necessarily scrub the floor, but he had to sacrifice his values and maybe his status or image in order to advance to the highest level that he is in now. And as I said, everything is alleged. This is speculation. This is astrology. Now, what I also do see is that he had gained some friends here and partners that helped him elevate his status. However, these friends, they also introduced a lifestyle to him that is not necessarily desirable for him, but he had to take that, he had to follow that route because of being led by the Lilith of the country that he's in. I do see that though these friends are they could be preachy, like people who are really convincing, and at the same time a bit controlling, which also, by the way, matches his character in terms of the control, because having Sun and Saturn together with Mercury, it does make a controlling personality. Particularly in Leo, he wants his way to be the only way, basically, allegedly. Everything, of course, is alleged. This speculation, just astrology. But I also do see that both his planets and the Lilith indicate to me that there are responsibilities or too much work that he had to take, or he's still taking today, which he is taking in order not to lose his status or not to lose his image, right? So maybe he's afraid to be forgotten, so he takes more work here that will keep his status and image out in the spotlight. Now, looking at the 11th house of America, because the 11th house, this is the Hollywood, this is his network circle, this is where he gets his gains and profits from, and there is Saturn and Neptune, which of course for America this is perfect, but for him it does introduce a bit of stress because of his conjunction of Moon, Pluto and Rahu, all with this Saturn and Neptune. So you can see that he has had depressive moments within the Hollywood circle, or maybe because of the people that he meets in the Hollywood circle, he has had outbursts, some maybe even overload, working too much to the point that he crashes, right? So just explode in his thoughts, in his mind, and there has been lots of red tape or structures that have been blocking him from doing some of the work that he wanted to do, or in the way that he wanted to do, because we have Pluto here, which is about his own power and what he can do and expressions of his work through his work, but then they are getting blocked by Saturn, the owner of the house. So it means that he had to go through red tape, he had to go through authorities, critical authorities, he had to have people give him work and then take it away, or promise him work and then they never follow it up because of the Neptune. So you can see the type of environment he had to face, even also regarding to his money. Most of the time it shows here his money has been restricted. He has not received the money that he really deserves in terms of his work. Why? Because the moon is conjunct that Saturn. So going to America, having his work, he had to also face that red tape, not only towards his work, but also even how much he takes from his work, or he gains from his work. Now, there's also some monies that have been not given to him, and that were due to him. And of course, he would never get to know about it if he's not using his Pluto to dig. But then that Neptune is highly indicating that a lot of money that he earned from his job had been cut, or he had been cheated on, and that's showing there. But it, having his Rahu there, his ambition and his way of adapting, because he's highly adapting in his work. He can change himself so easily. This is why he's an actor, because having Pluto, Moon and Rahu in Virgo, it makes a great actor. Why? Because Rahu is the magician, is able to change himself, adapt. And the moon is our minds, our mindset, what we do daily is the Virgo sign. And Pluto being transformative, you transform yourself all the time. So this is why he's able to do a lot of different jobs, a lot of different roles so easily, because he's blessed with those planets with that conjunction. But as I said, being in America, there has been red tapes in his creativity and how he's able to channel all of that. Now, looking closer to his both his Leo and Virgo, I do see that he's highly creative. He's a highly creative individual who is also, he cares about how he looks, and he knows that he looks good. Oh my gosh, he does look good. Like he really does look good. He is literally the only person in the celebrity world that I have a crush on. I've had a crush on forever, and literally even my husband knew that Tom Hardy is like, the guy. Like, this guy is gorgeous. I find him gorgeous. I find him sexy. I find him just manly, and his lips and his look, and just that he's got that like don't touch me look. Like, he just has the presence that I absolutely adore, and he's literally the only celebrity I have had a serious crush on all my life. And I have had to talk about that to my husband all the time, like, oh my gosh, look at Tom Hardy. So basically, this guy, he also knows that he looks good, and it's showing from his chart that his beauty has been one of the strengths that he actually enjoys, and he also likes to guard like so closely. So he values his beauty, he values how he looks, and at the same time you can see that he's a very strategic man, because you add certain Mercury and Sun together, you're gonna get the highest strategist on earth. So he's very strategic, very clever, very smart, both socially and mentally, because with Moon and Rahu you are going to definitely get a scientist. So he's a highly brilliant person, but at the same time he's very rigid, and as I said, he fears to lose control, he fears to lose his status, or to be forgotten. So that is something that really bothers him. He's highly secretive, highly manipulative as well, and he can be vengeful and be stuck in the past most of the time. However, when he throws in himself, maybe in love or in whatever, he can be extremely possessive. So Tom Hardy, you can possess me. Sorry to my babe. But anyway, yeah, he can be very possessive, and but at the same time, because he's got that Venus in Cancer, he's protective, and he can be very protective as well, because having Sun in a Leo, people like to guard their ancestry line or whatever they value so closely and so dear, and protect that. And having the Saturn in the mixture, Saturn is about traditions and the old things and the old ways, or he likes to guard things, those things. So you can tell from his chart that he's the type of guy that when he gets something that he really values, it could be a gift or it could be clothing or whatever, he will keep it and guard it so dearly to him. So he's very wise. He's a leader, like a silent leader though, because in America his sun, even though it is in Leo, it stays in the 10th house where Saturn is also empowered. So he's like a subtle leader that is not out there, leading, because he can't, due to the dynamics of where his sun gets placed in America, right? But I do see that there could be some duality in him, or maybe a double life of an agent type of a way. Maybe we see this person in public, and in the background he's a totally different person who's doing totally different things, indulging in totally different activities than what appears to us in the public. And so that is how he is molded. Or when it comes to his love, let's go to his love and the Geosynastry, because his Venus in Cancer gets to overlay in the 9th house of America. Now obviously definitely is indicating he would get a foreign love here in America, because his 9th house is about foreign things. So obviously I'm assuming that maybe his partner is an American. I'm assuming, I haven't checked. And because it is conjunct with the vertex, we do see that there is a love situation that would have changed his life, particularly in how he expresses his emotions, because the vertex there, it changes things all around 360. So it could have also been maybe a love relating activity that he did that changed his life around. And it is conjunct the American fortune, which is very lovely, because it shows this is where he would gain his fortune through his art. Because remember, Venus is art, Venus is the showgirl, so it shows here through his art he would in America get his fortune. And also businesses, because there's also the America's Mercury here. But it also shows that he would have had to use ways that are not all the time clear, like take shortcuts because of the Rahu, or do things to get ahead that are not necessarily straightforward, like things that are controversial, right, to get ahead due to that Rahu. So this is showing here. So now, okay, let's take that Chiron there, because it becomes very important due to the fact that it overlays in the 6th house of America. So 6th house, we know, is about work, our job, our daily life, and for him it is Chiron. Chiron is the wound. It is where he would really feel a lot of wound, a lot of disappointment. Now when I zone in on that Chiron, so the positive things from it is that it makes him be a leader, right? But as I said, it is a leader that is underground, because 6th house is originally owned by Mercury, and because this is a Aries sign, it becomes a bit limited, right? So you can see that he's a silent leader, and at the same time he is very stable, and he likes to have people around him in his daily life who are stable, because he enjoys being loyal, and he likes to show loyalty and receive it back. He's charming, he's magnetic. Oh my gosh, he's really charming, he's really magnetic. He's a gorgeous man, you guys. And and he can adapt, because 6th house, it needs people who adapt quite a lot. Now this is a routinious sign, a house that hosts his Chiron. So it does mean that there is a routine that he had to follow in order to heal some of his wounds or stresses, right? And that heals. So it could maybe he goes to the gym or whatever, or he eats healthily or something, right? Or he goes to the doctor, regularly, something like that. But I do see that the current here in the 6th house of America has given him hidden insecurities. So there are things that he's insecure about that we don't know about and we'll never know about, right? But at the same time, it reinforces that obsession with a reputation or with status, because as we know, Aries is like me, me, all about me. The physical, the number one, basically, is the sign of the number one. So he is scared to lose that reputation because it feels like it is him, so that bothers him, because Karen shows us the wound. So it bothers him quite a lot in America, or being in America. And at the same time, it can also show that through that wounding, he could be too controlling, because the 6th house is about being critical. So he could be very controlling to the point that he misuses some of his power, or some people that work for him or work with him, they find him difficult to work with, because wounding, right, you wound not only yourself but the people around you that work for you, because 6th house is about work and all of these things, right? So these are the very things that I can pick up from this Geosynastry. But of course, we could go into detail. I could go to his Neptune, get to all of these other planets. Imagine now what I can do for you, including the progression, which I don't want to touch today, and the transits, which I don't want to touch today, including the D9 chart, the D60 chart, and the D10 chart, particularly for the carrier, which I don't want to touch as well. So all these things do matter in Geosynastry, to be able to see how your life will be, because from here I could tell what age everything will happen. I did make that short about the age activation, which I had released already, like through my book and even through my subscriptions last year. A lot of people bought that book, so a lot of people do know the age activation part. But at the same time, there's more things that you will learn in my course, which is almost coming out, because Mercury will be going straight, and I will be able to release it without feeling like I'm going to make mistakes, because Gemini's Mercury, when it goes retrograde, we are roller skating. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that is the introduction on this channel of the Geosynastry that I've been doing in the background for my clients. So if you want to have your chart, you're thinking about moving, do not move until you contact me and I check your chart and the chart of the place where you're gonna go and your prospects. So you know what to do, and thank you so much. I'll be in touch.